It's an incredible, attractive hub in the GCC to attract talent. Also, the backdrop around regulation, the support for the banking sector is tremendous. So we're very positive long term. And I think investors are looking to place their capital in an increasingly changing world where they're going to get strong demand and also feel like they're going to get good returns.
Henrik Raber is Global Head of Global Banking at Standard Chartered, and he's joining me today. Welcome.
Nice to meet you.
So you've just been in a panel about the finance industry. What was being talked about?
We were talking about a range of topics in the finance industry, so partly around the infrastructure and how public and private markets may merge, because we've seen quite a big shift. Obviously, private credit has grown very substantially. We've seen the number of listed companies in the US come down by nearly 50% since the 1990s, but still there's huge amounts of capital. So there's not an issue for companies, whatever the format of the company, raising capital. In fact, more capital investment flows than ever before. I think there's a renaissance in financing going on, but the market structure is changing a little bit. And then there was also the topic around within the private equity world, are there some trapped positions? So the ability for some of the exits to happen out of a private equity fund wasn't maybe as forthcoming as it was a few years ago.
When you speak here to your colleagues from around the world, how do you feel your experiences differ, especially when we talk about IPOs? Let's say you're based in Dubai, so with people from the US and elsewhere in the world.
Well, I think we bring a global and also a local perspective. So, if you take, for example, the Hong Kong IPO market has been very vibrant the last 18 months, and much more so than maybe the Western markets. So we can bring to our companies and our clients a different perspective, different capital pools, and connect our network. The Middle East has also been a huge source of funding, and also in Saudi Arabia, huge amounts of capital there. And in the Saudi market, you've seen a lot of activity the last couple of years in the IPO space, but you've seen a tremendous amount of also debt financing on the back of infrastructure growth, private credit. So we can bring a perspective that others may not be able to do. And we are local in many of these markets, unlike some of the more global banks. So, for example, in the Middle East, we have about 2,500 people based there.
Nelson Riggs from NASDAQ, president of NASDAQ, said that this year will be the year of massive IPOs in the US. How do you feel about that?
I think the IPO market and some of these other trends are also impacted by the macro situation. So we came from a more benign inflationary environment where we had just come off some high inflation rates on the back of COVID, and interest rates were on the way down. We may now have a period where energy prices come up a little bit. That means we could shift to interest rates moving to a stable or higher outlook. That will slow down, I think, the IPO market. So whilst there's a big appetite for IPOs, it's just a function of when they come. Now, within the IPO pipeline, there are some very large, well-known planned transactions. I think that what you'll see is bigger transactions coming to market, maybe not so many transactions, and that could increase the concentration risk a little bit around the public markets.
How concerned are you about the current disruptions and the energy prices that will affect inflation, cost of living?
I think the markets overall have handled this period very well. The markets have been efficient. They've continued to trade through. We've seen good periods of volatility and volumes. So, we're going to have to work our way through this situation, and then prices will stabilize again. Everyone's sort of looking forward also from a short term to a longer term perspective. We're now right now in a short term. Volatility has gone up. Some of the correlations have broken down just because we're not sure what the next situation will be. But long term, I think energy prices will normalize. There's also been a huge investments in energy globally, both in the GCC, in Saudi, but also in the US, in LNG, etc. So there's going to be a lot of supply of energy. It's just a function of also getting to the consumer.
Dubai has become one of the financial centers of the world. Do you feel the current situation might slow down its role?
We are overall very optimistic about the UAE, so Abu Dhabi and Dubai in terms of financial. We as an organization have been there since 1958. So we've been along this growth journey. We've seen, over 135 funds open up in Abu Dhabi over the last couple of years. So I think we're in a long-term growth trajectory where it's going to be one of the financial centers. We've also seen a huge expansion in Riyadh in terms of the financial background. So whilst we have sort of short-term shifts in growth rates or cadence, the long-term trajectory is still there. It's an incredible, attractive hub in the GCC to attract talent. Also, the backdrop around regulation, the support for the banking sector is tremendous. And if you ask the fund managers or the banks who are present, they also get tremendous support as well to continue with their investments. So we're very positive long term.
What do you feel here in Miami at the FII? What are the biggest investment themes?
I think overall there's a sense of you need to think for long term. I think there's a sense of resilience. In terms of investment themes, the two main ones that we keep hearing about is real assets. So that's infrastructure, transportation, logistics, ports. There's a big theme that not only locally in our region, but also globally. So that's one. And then, of course, there's the AI piece. Now, AI is into you, whether it can be a startup situation, but also what we do a lot of is in the data center financing. So all these companies need data centers. There's been a huge expansion in the US around that, but also both in the Gulf region, there's been a lot of data center work. So we're pretty excited about these types of opportunities. And I think investors are looking to place their capital in an increasingly changing world where they're going to get strong demand and also feel like they're going to get good returns.
Also, we hear the central theme is capital in motion. What does this represent to you?
I think the markets and capital are moving faster than they ever done before. That's partly because we've seen change in terms of digital, we've seen new platforms, we've seen prediction markets. So there's a huge evolution of the way you can deploy your capital
Is it a good
and move it.
thing?
I think overall it's a good thing because it needs to be done in a safe, transparent, and regulated way in some way. But long term, it'll bring more capital into the system. So we're very positive around that. With it comes at times higher volatility and at times of stress. You can see that. So the prices move quicker, and we see reactions in the market much quicker than we did before. Anything from algo trading to social media, things are moving very quickly. But long term, I think that's a positive.
I would like to ask you, the FII Institute has recently published a Financing the Future report. It shows a massive infrastructure financing gap, estimated at roughly $15 trillion by 2040. Do you see public-private partnerships in emerging markets will play a big role in these demands?
I think there's going to be a huge crossover between public and private markets. So the infrastructure space, there are some very significant numbers being discussed, and a lot of those are in Saudi. And a lot of that discussion takes place at the FII, and it's a great forum also to connect around where these sort of capital flows are going. But we think that's a huge opportunity. It's investing in infrastructure has probably been one of the fastest growing segments within financial markets, and we see a lot of demand for that. And I think what's been interesting in the last few years, whilst it predominantly 10 or 15 years ago used to be more what we'd call a bank market, it's now brought in a huge range of investors, in particular private capital. And private capital is very focused on the infrastructure space because you have secured financing at a strong IRR, which is a very interesting for you all the way from retail all to into sovereign wealth funds and pension funds. So it's been a big theme at FII, not only in Miami, but globally, also in Riyadh. So we think it's a huge opportunity. And in terms of what we're doing, it's one of our main focus areas, one of our fastest growing region, and we're actually adding a lot of talent, both locally and globally, to support the investment flows around infrastructure.
Henrik Raber, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.